Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Vision Central on September 30th, 2022. And this is using your eSight or be mobile or mobility with eSight. We're going to start off here with a bit of an agenda. We're just going to do some introduction and housekeeping, and then we're going to learn about using eSight with being mobile. And at the end, we'll have some time for questions. If anyone has any questions about techniques and so forth at the end. So. Well, first off, for the basic foundations of using eSight, you want to make sure that your device is fitting properly and it's comfortable, especially when you're being mobile. You want to make sure that the halo is nice and secure and it's snug, so you're not worrying about the eSight 4 moving around, or if you're wearing an eSight 3, that the straps are comfortable with the unit. So then when you're walking around, you're not concentrating on making sure things are not sliding around too much. You're comfortable being secure. eSight is designed to keep you mobile, as we're discussing today. You're using bioptic tilt, so just making sure to always utilize the tilt of the eSight glasses. You don't want to be walking or doing anything mobile while looking just through the camera itself in that immersive view with the glasses straight in front of your eyes. You want to be able to tilt it up slightly and then look underneath, and use your normal vision and your peripheral vision in combination with the enhanced vision of eSight. Cable management is also important. So if you're using an eSight 3, just making sure you have good technique with, say, putting a wire over your shoulder, maybe, or just making sure it's tucked out of the way where it doesn't catch on anything like that. And also for eSight 4 users, if you're going to be out and about or doing anything, you always want to make sure you have additional batteries on hand, or you have a good battery management system to keep batteries charged for when you're going to be out and about with the eSight. So today we're going to be talking about being mobile with eSight. We have a number of topics. The first thing we're going to talk about is just general distance viewing, looking through a window and looking at objects with eSight. And then we're going to be talking about using the bioptic tilt to look at traffic signage and some footage there from Cosmo. And then I'm going to be looking at steps with eSight. So if I'm out and about and I'm trying to see steps to step into to look at, I can use the zoom and the contrast. And then we're going to be discussing using a white cane with eSight with Richard, and discussing a guide dog technique using an eSight with Jeanette. And then after, we're going to have a Q&A. So I want to get started then with the video for distance viewing. So I have a video here of using my eSight, looking into my backyard and looking at different objects. And what I'm trying to show here is just kind of basic of taking my time to look around, to zoom in on specific things, and then, decrease the magnification, have that wider field of view, and then increase the magnification to see things in more detail. So I'm going to pull up that video right now. Okay, and there we go. And Richard, can you see the video?
I can.
Perfect, excellent. So I'm just going to start playing the video here. And so this is my my backyard, and I was just looking through my window last night after a bit of a windy storm, and I'm just looking at the bird feeder here. The birds obviously need some more food, but I can look around and zoom on that, and I'm using a very measured approach to looking and zooming in. So I'm adjusting that magnification back, giving that wider field of view, pointing my nose in the camera and looking somewhere else. So I'm looking off into the distance there. There could be my daughter's school, there could be some traffic and so forth. I can see back there over the fence, and I can reduce that magnification, look around, and okay, I'm going to aim, say, the top of the playground equipment, and I can zoom in on that and actually pick that up. So it's just kind of a matter of keeping my head steady and then adding magnification and then reducing that magnification as needed. The one thing too that's right now I'm doing this on autofocus, so I'm not worrying about adjusting the focus of the unit. I'm letting the unit do what it needs to do depending on where I'm looking, and especially with being mobile with the eSight, recommend using the autofocus of the camera, so when you're looking around, the camera is adjusting and making those adjustments for you. There we go. Richard, are you just seeing the PowerPoint presentation on the back of the screen?
That's correct.
Good, excellent. So next we're just going to be talking about using bioptic tilt with traffic signage with Cosmo, and Cosmo put together a video discussing his use of the bioptic tilt.
Hello. So I'm going to demonstrate the bioptic.
Can you hear that? words in it?
Yes.
Beautifully.
Excellent. Always want to check for that. And they said both were live, so I always want to double check. I don't want to play a video and then no one can hear it.
Tilt. I am outside on a walk with my eSight. Now, hats, these ball caps don't work, so I can discard that. Give that to you. Thank you, helper. You can see I've got my sunglasses, they're not prescription, on underneath the eSight. And that's one of the great things about eSight 4 is that sun is over there and easily slip on eyeglasses of your choice, and it doesn't really affect the screen at all. So right now my eSight's in the downmost position, and put my remote down and you grab it by the front of the glasses, give it a little firm lift, and that's it. This is the up position, and this is how you want to walk when you're navigating. And so right now, looking straight ahead, I have my naked eye vision, and if I want to see out of the camera, I just have to tilt my head down this much, and now I'm looking at you through the eSight camera. So when I'm on a walk with the babies, that's how I go. I have it tilted up. You don't want to be staring through the camera when you are walking, because then your field of vision is narrowed and you're gonna walk into something if you're not looking where you're going. So have it up in the tilted up position, and it could even go up a little bit more, but I like it at that like halfway spot right around here. So I'm gonna take a walk down to some traffic lights and see what I can see.
Good. And then I have a second video here that will show Cosmo looking at traffic lights.
And you can see the light is challenging. There's the sun right behind the traffic lights, and the eSight's able to cut through it, and I can make out the green arrow there that's saying I can go. And I'm going to now use the finder button to find my next target. And I want to look over there. And this is, again, challenging lighting because now the sun is shining right at these lights. And I find that can often wash out the lights. And you can see I can make out the red hand and the red light pretty easily. Right here, I'm adding contrast to it with the right arrow. And that makes the light stand out a little bit more. So here I'm just playing with the contrast up and down and seeing what else I can see. That sunlight is challenging, but I'm able to make it out, which is pretty remarkable. And then I want to try and show you the next to the hand, there will eventually be a countdown to let you know how long until it's going to switch. But of course, it didn't feel like cooperating, and it was a long light. And because I'm zoomed in at around times 20, it's shaky, and that's to be expected anytime you're zoomed in that much. But with practice, it's not a big deal. And the reason it's zooming out, zooming in is so I can use the finder button to just, when you're zoomed in like that, it's hard to locate where you are because your field of vision is pretty small. And so it's still not doing the countdown. So I'm going to show the twins. They were very patient while I was doing this boring stuff. She was grumpy because she wanted to keep moving, and they were facing the sun. And okay, no, keep moving, Daddy. And pretty good quality picture for that zoomed in. And in a few seconds, it's going to switch over to green, and you'll see the countdown, and I can make out the numbers just fine.
And the nice thing is, you're looking at multiple signs, right? You're looking at multiple distances and showing how the autofocus is adjusting. And you also have the traffic moving in front of you. So the traffic is also sometimes the trucks and so forth that you can go by that will be between you and the object you're looking at, which is showing how the camera does that adjustment. So just kind of being patient and steady. And there you go, Cosmo. The green arrow showed up.
And I'm, my adjustments are very basic. People make it more complicated. There's the countdown, 15, 14, see autofocus, sharpen it in. And because I think the flashing hand is going, that was giving the autofocus a little bit of, but I can make that out. But all I'm doing is
numbers. Yeah.
All I'm doing is zooming in and a tiny bit of contrast. That's it. That's the only adjustments I had to make. And so when people say, well, what's the procedure to do this? What do I need to do? To always start with making it big enough and then add a little contrast if necessary. And then if that's still not good enough, then go back to your coach and we can teach you the other techniques to adjust it. But oftentimes 95% of the stuff I look at, it's just making it big enough. So the procedure is zoom in and don't make your life more complicated.
Perfect. Okay, thanks, Cosmo. That's great and great video. Thank you for that. And the next we're going to discuss, just going to show looking at some steps with eSight. I find eSight can be very helpful with looking at steps if I'm being mobile, because things can blend together. I do have other techniques when it comes to steps, but one of the things I did enjoy with the eSight was having that contrast and having more distinction. So I do have a quick video here that I am going to pause, showing steps and myself viewing them through the eSight. This video here. So these are actually my front steps here that they're seeing, my little pathway to the front step. What I find with my normal vision is that the steps can blend together. If I'm going forward or stepping down, the edges, there's no distinct edges on those steps. And with the eSight, if I add contrast, I can enhance the shadowing and I can enhance the edges of the steps and see that. And what I found is that has been very helpful, especially if I'm in an area that I'm unfamiliar with. Like this is my front steps at my home, so I kind of know, okay, there's 2 steps going up to the porch, and then into the house is another step. But if I'm not familiar with the place, I can use my eSight to zoom in, and I can see that, and I can add a contrast to have a look at what I'm seeing. I find that the contrast is very helpful for me outside with my acuity, to give distinction to things. Some of the things that I struggle with are when things blend together a little bit. So if there's cement steps, or if there are escalator steps, if there's an escalator moving down and they're dropping, right, and seeing that depth can be challenging. So this is my front steps here. So when I start off here, I'm looking at them and I'm zooming in on them, and I can see the shadowing and so forth, and see the edges. I do have one of the plants that are sticking out in front of the steps, which I think is a good thing to show, because it's not always going to be looking great. And then walking forward, I can look down and go, okay, I got that. Then I use my bioptic tilt to step up. So I wasn't looking at the steps as I'm going up, like through the camera. I'm actually using that bioptic tilt that Cosmo was referring to earlier. And I'm looking at multiple things. So I'm looking at the steps, and then going to use the eSight to look at my entry on my door. So I have a keypad here that I'm going to look at, and I'm going to zoom in, and I can see the buttons there, and I can interact with the keypad to put in a code to enter my house, and I can look at the doorknob, or the handle of the doorknob. They can also blend together. I do find at night that I find the eSight very helpful as well, turning on that light. So I can turn on the flashlight on my eSight, and I can do the same thing I did now, but I can see that spotlight lighting things up. So one thing to keep in mind with being mobile with eSight, it can be helpful with assessing depth, and it can be helpful with trying to see detail things such as the keypad or brass doorknob as you're trying to open it. And my main technique now is adjusting the magnification and adjusting the contrast as I went. Okay, so next to discuss using the eSight with in different ways and judging depth and so forth, Richard is going to speak about using a white cane with his eSight. So Richard, if you'd like to carry this topic away here.
All right. Well, thank you, Tyler. And I just want to kind of echo back to what Cosmo was saying. We'll talk about the basics, and the basics using any version of a white cane, or any even being mobile. It always starts with the bioptic tilt. You want to give yourself some tilt so that you can have your underneath vision, and you also can have that enhanced magnification. If you glance up, you literally just lower your head an inch and glance up, and that will give you that vision. That's where everything starts. So for those of you who have been through O&M training, this is going to sound very familiar for you. For those of you who haven't, I'll try to give you the quick and dirty on the different canes and the different kinds of ways you'll use eSight with different canes. So as many of you know, there's only a small percentage of blind people that actually are completely, totally blind, have no sight at all. So a lot of us go through life and um, there's no visible signs to other people that you have a vision impairment. And so that is where something called a signal cane comes in, because the purpose of the signal cane is to let people know that, because you cannot tell just by looking at me that I have an issue or I have a problem. And I would much rather someone yell at me rather than me walk in front of traffic, right? So I'm carrying my cane. So that's the purpose of the signal cane. Um, and a lot of people will they'll either use it just for identification purposes, or they will also use it in conjunction or as a probing cane. They'll use probing techniques. Now there is a separate cane that is considered quote unquote a probing cane, but a lot of people I know will use either um, a signal cane to probe, or a probing cane. They're kind of interchangeable in that way. And so the way that you're going to use your probing cane, it's basically there uh, to help you identify curbs, steps, things like that, so that you don't trip. You're constantly going to be, just kind of probing in front of you, um, and when you do feel something, like when you know there's something there, that's when you kind of glance down, you look in your eSight, and you can identify what that is. So it can help you be able to make that step. If you're doing stairs, it can help you be able to identify, going down or coming back up. Um, Anything like that, and that's going to be that that probing style. Now for some other people, you're going to probably use a mobility cane. Now mobility canes typically are a little bit longer. You need a little bit more more time to kind of react, so a lot of times your mobility canes will be longer, and that is the quintessential what you think of when you think of the white cane. That's when people are typically sweeping back and forth, and that's the image that people have when they think cane. But you can actually still use your mobility cane even with the eSight, and I find that they partner really well, because while that mobility cane, you're sweeping left and right and you're making sure that nothing is directly in your path, you can glance up through the eSight and kind of get the distance while you're doing that. Just quick glances, little spot checks. And then once again, just like how you would use the technique with the probing cane, when you do come into contact with something, when your cane does come into contact, you can stop, lean down, and just kind of look and see what it is. So I find that, pretty helpful. Personally, I do more of the probing technique, because I haven't needed to go all the way to the mobility style yet. Um, but I think we have all been trained when it comes to the O&M training. They pretty much train you with all the different techniques. So um, I can do the mobility stuff with the mobility cane, but I also kind of like to have a shorter cane. That's just a personal preference. So, but yeah, the eSight is really, really good to be able to use with it. It's not an either or type of thing. People think, um, well, what am I going to use my eSight for if I'm using my cane? Well, for the things that I just described, they actually work really well together, and they work in different ways. So, um, so yeah, and then if when we're done here, if anyone has any questions about that, I'll be happy to answer anything.
Perfect. Excellent. Thank you, Richard. Great. And next, we're going to discuss using a guide dog with eSight, kind of a different technique with Jeanette.
Well, thank you so much, Tyler. So what I really want to talk about today is going to be, in a sense, a combination of everything that you've heard so far. So we're using bioptic tilt, we may use sunglasses, we're using something in one hand. In Richard's case, it's a cane in the right hand, I noticed, but with a guide dog, anybody who uses a guide dog is going to know that generally our guide dog is on our left side. So we're holding the harness with our left hand. Now, if you've got an eSight 3, obviously you've got a controller and you've got the eSight head unit wiredly. It's connected to the remote control. So you may want to just again manage that wire carefully, because you've got the harness in your left hand and you're needing your right hand to make signals for the dog. So that, you know, if you're turning right, if you're turning left, sometimes people know that they have to tap their side or, you know, move the hand in front of them as they tell their guide dog to go forward, things like that. So the dynamic is that you're using your left hand to hold the harness so that you can be guided, and you're using the bioptic tilt of the eSight so that you can tilt the eSight halfway up or even all the way up, depending on what you're doing. So if you're walking along and it's bright and sunny, like it usually is in Florida, apart from the last few days, unfortunately, Florida is where I live, you're going to have, which I do, oftentimes I'll have sunglasses underneath my eSight. And so I can tilt that eSight halfway up and use the native vision that I have for my peripheral view. And I can use the eSight for the enhanced view. So if, for example, I'm walking along and I am looking for the number of a door, let's just say I'm in a community and I'm going to see my friend and I'm looking for the number on her door, I'll be walking along and then I will get, you know, my guide dog to help to stop, and I'll have the guide dog sit, and I will then usually tilt my eSight down and zoom up, and then I'll press the finder button on my eSight 4 and I will shrink the picture down so that it's shrunk down with the finder. It shrinks the picture down so you've just got the overall picture through your eSight, and then you have a little box that represents what your camera is pointing to. This enables me to have an overall picture of what's around, and I can look towards all the doors, or maybe if you've got a neighborhood where you've got the numbers of the doors on the mailboxes, you'll see an overall picture, and then you can look towards the direction in which you know the door is, and then you can release that finder, and now whatever it is that you're looking at, in this case, hopefully the number of the door or the number of the mailbox, is going to be directly in front of your eyes at the same zoom level that it was before you press the finder. Once you find that, you can then tilt your eSight back up to maybe halfway up or all the way up, depending on what it is you're looking at, and tell your guide dog to go forward and signal with your right hand forward, and then you're on your way. You can walk along the path to that door. If you're looking at steps, for example, again, as Tyler had said before, the use of you know, contrast is excellent. And as Cosmo said, you know, again, you've got your sunglasses on so you can cut down on the glare. And again, you can use the finder to identify the general area. And then once you find exactly what you want to look at in detail, you can let go of that finder and you've got your eSight there, homing in on the details of that. And then when you find it, you can tilt your eSight up. And the lovely thing is you do have the freedom to hold the harness of your guide dog. That's very important, that you have that control. So you've got the guide dog on your left side, you're walking together, and you can still use your eSight. So, you know, if, again, as has been mentioned before, if you want to use, you know, more techniques with your eSight and your guide dog, we have many users who also have guide dogs. Please go to your coach and you can request specific skills that you want to home in on using your eSight. All right.